Hey guys, today Deeksha and I are going to have a live conversation about our long distance friendship and how we stay so close and stay in touch despite living hours away from each other. So we met each other actually our 10th grade of high school in Malaysia, which a lot of people find crazy, right?
Yeah, I think it was our PE class. Yeah, it was definitely our PE
Yeah.
class.
Yeah, our PE gym class was the first time we met.
Yeah, our favorite class, guys. Our favorite class.
We were like 15 at the time, and that was like 8 years ago at this point. So we've been friends together for a long time.
Yes, very long time.
So we were in Malaysia for about a year and a half. You moved to Abu Dhabi, I moved to Cincinnati, Ohio, and like for our senior year, we didn't see each other in person, but we still stayed in touch a lot. Like we were texting each other all the time.
That's true. But we didn't, did we FaceTime and stuff? No, we didn't, because we were in like 2 different parts of the world and we had school going on, right?
Yeah, it was like time difference was so hard to figure out. We were on like different continents, so we just kind of like Facebook Messenger or like WhatsApp each other. So we were like, that was I think probably our like longest and most furthest apart experience with a long distance relationship, and it was only a year and a half into our friendship too, so the fact that we got through that and still were like very close, I think kind of set that precedent for the rest of our friendship and even the distance coming forward.
Yeah, that's true. I keep forgetting, like now that we're doing long distance again, I keep forgetting we've done longer. Like this feels pretty long distance even though we're in the same country. But the whole like Abu Dhabi and Ohio, like I keep forgetting that one's like even further apart.
Yeah, I think the reason we keep forgetting is because, well, we went to the same college. We somehow just ended up at the same university without ever planning it out.
Yeah, we didn't plan it out. We didn't even talk about colleges because we thought it was like too stressful of a topic to talk about. So that was just something we didn't really talk about that much.
I mean, once we found out we were going to the same college, we were like, oh, let's just be roommates.
Yeah, we were like, well, this is convenient.
And that was, it was convenient because none of us had to live with a random roommate, and like we didn't know anyone else going to the same college either. True. So it worked out really well, and it was actually like fate. I really think it was fate at that point.
I agree. Like in hindsight, now that I think of it, it was kind of like the universe was like, you know what, let's put these two friends together again.
So then when we were roommates, there was literally no scope for a long distance friendship. We were trapped in the same room, 3 feet apart from each other.
I think our room was the smallest room in the entire floor. Like it was so small. Yeah.
Yeah, and we didn't even choose it. It was just assigned to us. We had no choice in like where we lived, what room it was. It was really hard to even have the distance. We were a little too close at that point. Like we had no alone time. We had to see each other when we were at home. We were even the same major at that point. So like we sometimes had classes together, or like we're heading towards the same building for our classes all the time.
We had breakfast, lunch, and dinner together as well. Yeah. Let's keep that one in mind. I can't believe I had 3 meals with you together.
It was the complete opposite of like a long distance friendship. It was a little too close, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. But I feel like that year kind of helped us set helped us realize what healthy boundaries were, because we didn't really know how to set boundaries back then.
Yeah, and it's hard to set boundaries. Like we didn't have like there was not many places we could go alone and spend time by ourselves, or like there wasn't as many opportunities. Like when you have like a best friend already and you're living with them, you're doing everything with them, it was also hard to like branch out. Like I remember we had to try really hard to branch out and like make friends outside of just each other, and that was one of our goals. We were like, we're not going to join the same clubs, we're not going to like be involved in the same things because we don't want to be stuck to each other that much. So I think it was very healthy of us to be self-aware and recognize that we're already spending so much time together and there has to be some separation in our lives.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think especially like we were really young, like what, 17 or 18? Yeah, 17. Yeah, I was 17 or 18. So we were very young, and the fact that we were able to recognize that, I think, speaks a lot to our maturity.
Yeah, because there are people who like, we've heard like horror stories about like friends living together, and we were so nervous going in. But I think again, like going back to the long distance thing, like having spent like over a year apart at that point and then moving in together really helped us know ourselves outside of just like our friendship with each other, and
True.
outside of just like being trapped in a room together all the time.
Yeah, like we didn't graduate high school together. We just kind of, we were in high school together, we were apart, and then we were together again. So I think that's like a unique situation, and I don't hear many people have that. Like when they say they're rooming with their high school best friend, it's usually someone they graduated with.
Yeah, and that's like at that point you've like been through all your major milestones together, so you don't really have that like life separation. Like we still had a lot more to learn about each other because we had so many different experiences the year prior to moving in together.
Yeah. I wouldn't say we were like, I wouldn't even say we were best friends in high school. We were good friends, but I think we really became best friends in college. So after college, you moved to this big city, Chicago, and I moved to a cute little town. Just kidding. It was not a town, but it was more of a mid-sized city. I moved to Cincinnati, and we did long distance again over there. So even though you were in Chicago, I was in Cincinnati. That was like a, what, 4 or 5 hour drive? I don't know. I never did the drive, but you could speak to it. But it wasn't that long of a drive, but it was a very short flight. I remember it being like maybe an hour.
Yeah, it was only a 5-6 hour drive, so it was very easy to like plan it last minute, which I remember I did like once or twice, and just was like, hey, I'm coming over tomorrow for like a week to stay over, just because you know, I'm bored.
Yeah, I know. I had like what, under 12 hours to like get it together before you came.
Or you didn't have to get it together for me. You could just be yourself, and I wouldn't judge how messy your house was or anything.
That's true. That's true. I would just make you clean. I'm kidding. Be like, good, now I have someone to help me clean.
But I think because I was more comfortable driving long distance at that point, I visited you a couple more times than you visited me, because you had to actually take a flight to come see me, and you lived alone, so it was a lot easier for me to just like crash at any time, and I had a roommate, so I had to kind of like coordinate with her and everything and make sure that there wasn't like too much going on in my house. When like the times you did visit Chicago, like we did a lot more like big city touristy fun stuff. Whereas when I went to Cincinnati, it was more just like me going home almost. Like I felt very like at home there. And
Cincinnati was also your home too at one point, so I think, and we went to college in Ohio, so it definitely had like home vibes.
Yeah, it felt like I was like driving home for Christmas or driving home for Thanksgiving, you know, like even though my family wasn't there, but like I had someone as close as my family there, and like I was very familiar with that environment. I remember when I went to Chicago, it was like, okay, we're doing this, because I did not take a flight here to not do this, and this. Yeah, it was a lot more like action-packed and jam-packed, whereas like Cincinnati was more like relaxing. We would just like go out to like the same restaurant because we both love that restaurant and stuff like that. Right. So Riddhi, now that we're further apart, would you say I bother you more with my FaceTime calls? I don't say you bother me. I think we do FaceTime a lot more though. That's true. Yeah, we do. I don't think we FaceTime this much. Like, I don't think we've ever FaceTimed this much. Or I don't think I was even comfortable FaceTiming like before this. Yeah, we kind of had to get comfortable with it. Like, there's only so much, like, phone calls are great and everything, but there's only so much you can talk over like an audio call versus like actually physically like taking you around my house while I do stuff and like talking to you at the same time. Plus, it's kind of hard to like text out paragraphs if something is like a big thing that's going on. So I think it's easier to just like call. And I don't know, like if you FaceTime, you get to see the other person's face. So it's like, oh, like let me take you to my kitchen and you're just kind of there while I'm cooking kind of thing. And actually when you visited me last holiday season back in December, we like, it didn't feel like we hadn't seen each other for about 6 months at that point because we were FaceTiming so regularly. We were constantly like Snapchatting, texting and everything. So that's true. It didn't feel like we had been apart for 6 whole months, you know, because that's so true. We were having those like regular conversations all the time like we would in person anyway. Yeah, I agree. So yeah, it's hard texting long paragraphs and stories. So I think the fact that we FaceTime each other is just a lot easier. Because if I want, for example, like I know you do like folding your laundry and talking to someone at the same time. So I think like that's a good use of your time too. Like you're catching up with a friend and you get to fold your laundry. Yeah, it makes it go by faster. And sometimes I honestly use like calling you as a substitute for like if I would be watching TV instead or something, you know? True. Because it just feels like it's like I need that social personal interaction anyway, and
yeah, and
it's
I'm
a lot
more
easier to just pick up the phone and call someone than go out and make plans with someone.
And I'm way more entertaining than a TV, so.
Yeah, and I feel like I get more out of our conversations than a TV show.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, and I think the days where we don't feel like FaceTiming, we still like Snapchat each other. We have like many platforms we communicate on, so Snapchat is something I think we do consistently.
But yeah, I think Snapchat is definitely one of our more like casual conversations, or not even, it's not even always a conversation. Sometimes it's just like, LOL, I made some coffee, I don't know, and then like snapping you a picture of it, or like you're snapping me a picture of your like sunset that you're looking at. And yeah, so like even though you're not like necessarily calling me to like show me the sunset, I'm not calling you to show you like my coffee.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
Just like that like little like picture that takes like 2 seconds to send, like it's like, okay, oh that's cool, like she's watching the sunset, or like, oh cool, like her coffee.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's like texting or like iMessage or something, because that's probably when we're talking more like an actual back and forth conversation, or have something not necessarily serious or important, but just like more like conversation and more back and forth needed.
Yeah.
Snapchat is just like less commitment.
That's
than
true.
Sending a text, because you don't always expect a reply on Snapchats, right? But if you're sending a text to someone, like you usually expect a response back, and then it's just like.
I would say I'm better at Snapchatting, which is, even though it's low commitment, I don't know, because I think like once I open the snap, I have to like respond, or if I don't respond, I'll just never respond. But in text, it's just kind of sitting there, you know? Like it's like, even if you open it, it's just sitting there kind of deal. So I don't know. I don't like texting that much unless it's you.
Again, like going back to that, like Snapchats don't always need a response. So like even if you leave someone unopened or read, like it's not
a big deal.
It's not like, oh my God, why didn't you respond or something, you know? Whereas like if you don't text me back, I'll be like, why didn't you respond to my text?
Yeah. Plus we also have our read receipts on for each other. So we know.
Only for each other.
Yeah, only for each other. Oh my gosh, if I had my read receipts on for other people.
Yeah, oh my God, I'd be in so much trouble.
Yeah. Also, a lot of times, like I read text while I'm like, if I'm like in a meeting which I'm not participating in, I'll like read a text, you know, but then I'm still like paying attention in the call. So then I don't respond, and then I'll get out of the meeting and I'll just completely forget about the text. So
yeah, like it's a lot easy for me to just, it's really easy for me, like the notification to just pop up, and me like see the like, oh, like read the message and then just like clear the notification and then completely forgot that it was ever there.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so even though we talk a lot, I don't think we're like stuck. I mean, we can't be stuck to the hip, but I think we still have our own lives. Like we have very separate lives in our own cities, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think especially like because like FaceTime and all is great and like like awesome to stay in touch and everything with, but you still need to like still need someone to like go places with and like hang out with in person. And if like one friend isn't, like if you're not there, like I still have to have like other people I can go out with in person and see on a regular basis. You know, I can't just rely on you and our FaceTime calls for like my entire like social life. Yeah,
I agree. And I think like you bring up a good point. Like being best friends with each other doesn't mean we're just friends with each other. I think it's still important to like have those other friendships.
Yeah, and even with like our other friendships, like there's so many people we were friends with in high school or college that are at completely different like stages of their life right now. Like like being in our like early 20s, there's people like who are literally getting married and like, or like about to get married and are engaged and stuff, and other people who are like living like wild lifestyles, like they're still like 18 years old. So like even though we are like growing at the same rate and are at the same stage in our life, and that's great, but there are a lot of I think that's why our long distance friendship lasts so well, is because we're not like completely different people, even though we have completely different lives. We're still at more or less the same stage in our lives and have so much in common. And then we can have our other friends in our own separate lives.
Yeah, I agree. I would say we're definitely in the same stage in our lives, but I think we also like have very different personalities. So I think it's interesting how we have very separate personalities, but we're still in the same stage in our lives. I wonder why that is.
Yeah, I think I think that's what makes our friendship different from like other more casual friendships we have, or other like even close friendships we have that aren't as strong of a bond, because we just tend to like grow and evolve at the same rate, and like it's not like it's not something we plan or something that's intentional. We just happen to go through the same things and like experience the same things in life together, which keeps
it would be very weird if we planned that.
Keeps giving us more to bond over and connect over, and actually not just be talking about like the past that we share together the whole time, you know, because there are a lot of friends I have where like whenever we hang out, like just because we're college friends, all we talk about is like college and people we know together and mutual stuff, or like work, you know, because that's what we have in common. It was from like a previous stage of our lives, but now I think the reason we have so much to talk about and that we can talk endlessly sometimes is because we don't just focus on like our past or shared like times together. It's also like what we're doing in the present, because we can relate to each other.
Like, I don't think we talk about people a lot now that I think of it. Yeah, we don't talk about people that much. We're not big gossipers. I think we focus more on ourselves, and like I think when we have long conversations, usually we're talking about each other, or like the ways we're growing or the things we're feeling, instead of like talking about other people. I think that's also like a big reason why I don't feel drained after talking to you, because for me at least, like if I gossip with someone for a long time about someone, that like is really draining. Like I don't feel good after that. So I think that's, I like that about our friendship.
Yeah.
So Riddhi, what would you tell other people about long distance friendships?
I think a lot of people are concerned with maintaining their friends once they're long distance.
Yeah.
Especially like people who are in high school together, or were close friends in college, and now they're moving to different cities or growing further apart, or again, like growing at different rates and are in different stages of their life. But I think it's really important to not force it. Like you don't have to stay friends with someone you have nothing in common with anymore just because at one point you were very close, you know? It has to come very naturally. If it's like meant to be and your friendship is meant to last a long time, it's not gonna happen just because you force it. It's gonna happen naturally, and your relationship will evolve naturally. So I wouldn't stress about it too much for others who are going through the same thing, or others who are concerned about losing their friends just because they're moving further apart. Because there's a lot of ways to make it work, but there's a lot of ways where, you know, sometimes it just doesn't work, and people just end up having such completely separate lives and don't really have anything to connect over anymore. So like you shouldn't have to force it just because you've known someone for a certain period of time, or you were as close to someone for a certain period of time.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And also I think like another thing I'd like to add on that is that you don't always have to be in touch on a very regular basis. Like you don't have to talk every single day. Like sometimes friendships just naturally evolve into like talking once every few weeks or once every few months, and those friendships are fine too. Like you don't have to be the same type of friends you were in college. And just because your friendship changes, that doesn't mean you're not friends anymore, you know, or that it's gotten worse. It's just different. Okay.
And just because we talk a certain amount of times or stay connected a certain number of times or through a certain number of platforms doesn't mean that someone who only stays in touch maybe like once a week or like even a couple of times a month are any less close than we are. Some people just prefer to pick up their relationship back when they meet in person, and they're just as close and they're just as much there for each other, even though they're not like talking to each other all the time. So there's not like a one size fits all for all friendships and all people. This is just like what works for us, and we found a way to make it healthy and still and like have our boundaries and still maintain our relationship.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, especially the part where your frequency doesn't have to be set by someone else's frequency of staying in touch. It's whatever works for you.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks guys. Thank you for listening to our conversation.
We hope this gives you a little bit of insight into our relationship and our background and how we managed to stay so close despite living so far away from each other, and maybe if you're in a similar situation, it helps you not be as concerned or as worried about maintaining your long distance friendships. And let us know in the comments down below what you think, or if there's anything else you want to hear us talk about. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!
Bye!